Okay, yo guys, we're back with another episode of Flawless Finance going live with the CEO, episode 10. Um, like I normally start off with talking about nearly anything, give me anything from sports to news to politics, economics, business, anything. But first things first, we're going to start off with the WWE 2024 SummerSlam. So the show kicked off with a huge title match, Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. Now, this was a pretty interesting match, a pretty interesting lead up to the match. You had a lot of controversy with, Dirty Dom with Rhea and Liv. It was sort of looking like Liv was trying to trap Dirty Dom and kind of putting him in these weird situations which kind of looked like, taken out of context, would look kind of weird. But going into the match, it looked like Dom really had that loyalty to Rhea. And they looked like coming out, a Judgment Day United front. They came out. Some shenanigans went on in the match, but overall was a pretty entertaining match. Rhea Ripley looked like she popped out her shoulder. And she was trying to pop it back in. That looked crazy, by the way. Stuff like that is what I love to see. That is some rock star stuff right there. And then one thing led to another. Dominic had stopped Rhea Ripley from hitting Liv Morgan with the chair because she was about to do that, and it would have cost her the title match. He done that, but one thing led to another, and then Dirty Dom got involved, distracted the referee. Liv Morgan hit her finish onto Rhea Ripley, onto that steel chair that Dominic took from Rhea Ripley. And then that was it. Rhea was out for the count. And then after that, the huge swerve happened where Dirty Dom kissed Liv Morgan and, cemented the fact that he has turned on Rhea Ripley and he is no longer a part of the Judgment Day. We'll talk about the Judgment Day later on. But, yeah, Dominic Mysterio is with Liv Morgan now, gave her, a nice kiss. He's one lucky guy because a lot of dudes would die to be in that position, and I think that's going to really help continue to get Dominic over as a heel. Because if you're just that guy that everyone's jealous of, everyone hates, then you're going to continue to get those big reactions from the people. But Liv Morgan retains her Women's World Championship in a pretty decent opener. As far as openers go for WWE Premium Live events, as a pretty good match. And got the crowd going with a huge turn at the end. But Liv Morgan retains her WWE Women's World Championship. And I'd be interested to see where they go with this now. Obviously, I imagine the end goal will be, Rhea winning that championship back and her being the champion again. But I thought Rhea might have won it at SummerSlam, but she didn't. So they're keeping us on our toes. I'm definitely interested to see what happens next in that storyline. Also, what's next for the Judgment Day? We'll see. We'll get onto that later on. But they've left them in a very interesting situation where Liv Morgan now, she's a pretty good main eventer at this point. I know she didn't main event this show, but she's a Women's World Champion and put on a pretty decent match against Rhea. I mean, Rhea's bona fide main eventer. Rhea's bona fide at this point. She can put on a great match. Overall, can tell a great story. Liv Morgan's not quite at that point yet in terms of in-ring ability, being able to tell that story. Rhea can do it brilliantly. But Liv still has a bit more developing to do. Not to say that she hasn't developed, because she seriously has. And her skills, you compare Liv Morgan now to where she was 5 years ago in terms of everything, in terms of story, in terms of character, in terms of promo. Her promos aren't amazing, but she's good eye candy, so it's okay. I wanted Liv Morgan to potentially get this push a few years back, but it's all about timing, and timing's worked out pretty good. Where story's been amazing, and they're able to make it work, and she's been put on some good matches. She won the title in Saudi, and Rhea's gonna have the revenge tour next, because even though. Maybe Rhea's going to have the revenge tour next. Yeah, like I said, let's see. Because they've got some interesting directions they can go in, because we could have a situation where Rhea Ripley goes on a tear and works her way up back to the world title match. and then beats Liv Morgan in a huge, sort of celebration win. But it'd be interesting to see because she was the de facto leader of the Judgment Day, and she's not got a world title anymore. So it certainly will be interesting. Let's see what's next. What's next for SummerSlam? Yes, Bron Breakker v Sami Zayn. What was a decent match. Nothing special. I think was probably in terms of match quality was similar level to the opener, but we saw Bron Breakker beat Sami Zayn and win the Intercontinental title. This is the second time these two have fought. They fought at the last Premium Live event and had a match again. Wasn't a really long match. It was probably more even than what I would expect it to be, considering the way they are trying to build Bron Breakker. This match was pretty even, and I get that because you don't want to bury Sami Zayn, but I didn't really like Sami Zayn ending Gunter's Intercontinental title reign because I felt Sami Zayn's momentum had completely gone by this point. To be honest, Sami Zayn was on a run. I want to say last year, sort of beginning of last year when he just left the Bloodline, and he was red hot. And for me, at that point, when you've got someone who's red hot, and he had the Premium Live event in his hometown in Canada, and he fought Roman Reigns and he lost, at that point, you've basically just sent him back down to the mid card because he had that red hot momentum. The fans were behind him. He had that huge. It wasn't a push because it kind of came naturally when he left the Bloodline, and everyone was on his side. I get why they didn't because they wanted to wait for Cody to beat Roman. But I almost think when you've got a situation like that, you've got someone who's red hot, you kind of just call an audible. They didn't. But I think it would have made for such a great moment if they had Sami Zayn beat Roman Reigns. I want to say it was Elimination Chamber or or something like that. It was one of them pay-per-views. It was between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And again, WWE is so predictable. They're not going to have a title change at that Premium Live event. That's another thing that annoys me. But we'll get into that another time. But yeah, Bron Breakker beat Sami Zayn and wins the Intercontinental title. Wasn't a really long match. And I think ultimately the story coming into it was, will Bron Breakker learn from his previous mistakes and loss from Sami Zayn? And, he did. I wouldn't say it was better than their first match, but Bron Breakker wins and he wins the title. And let's see how long he holds it on for. I think they'll probably make Bron Breakker hold onto this title for a while, like they do with these championships nowadays. There's a lack of unpredictability. It's like, okay, this guy wins this title, he's holding it until at least the next significant Premium Live event, because you're not having title changes on TVs, and you're not really even having them at the small Premium Live events either. So it kind of makes those smaller Premium Live events and TV kind of pointless to watch, because nothing major is going to happen. Luckily WWE have been good at being able to create these good long-term stories, but they're not going to... I mean, let's see. I say they're not going to last forever, but they're long-term stories, so hopefully they do. But like I said again, Bron Breakker beat Sami Zayn, new Intercontinental Champion. What do you think... I'd be interested to know what you think Bron Breakker's reign is going to be like when he's champ. So, yeah, let me know what you think about that. And yeah, we had Logan Paul versus LA Knight. Yeah, LA Knight beats Logan Paul to win the United States Championship in a match that had some pretty big moments, to be fair. Some good crowd interaction. You had Machine Gun Kelly get involved. He accompanied Logan Paul to the ring. But it really says a lot about Logan Paul that even in his hometown, he still gets booed. But I think that's because everyone knows he's actually a really bad person. So I'm kind of happy that they're not like, okay, he's a bad person, but he's a good wrestler, so we'll cheer him. No, everyone knows he's an absolute piece of, I won't say on YouTube, absolute piece of work. So I'm happy that everyone boos him. Tremendous athlete, tremendous performer, but scumbag in terms of personality. Good match, but like I said, Jake Paul really performed some huge moments in this match, and we saw that huge springboard moonsault off the top rope. Insane move, absolutely insane. And to be honest, Jake Paul, in terms of his in-ring matches, I get that he's working one-on-one with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and he's getting loads of time to rehearse these matches. So of course, when you're getting months to rehearse one match, of course that one match is going to be amazing. Of course it is. But in a lot of ways, he's putting some of these wrestlers to shame. You know, this guy never wrestled professionally before he came to the WWE, and he's holding his own against guys in the ring that have been wrestling for 5, 10, 15, 20 years in some of these cases. But we saw Jake Paul get up to his usual shenanigans, and he used a set of brass knuckles, but wasn't enough to knock out LA Knight as he hit Jake Paul with the BFD, blunt force. I thought it was blunt force trauma, but BFD, and then LA Knight pinned Jake Paul, wins the United States Championship. Very interested to see what they do with LA Knight. Again, similar to Sami Zayn, it's better with LA Knight because he never had that huge loss. I think no one was expecting him to beat Roman Reigns when he faced him, so he never really had that huge loss and was still able to continue that momentum because LA Knight is just masterful on the promo. Absolutely masterful. So he was able to really maintain that momentum. So let's see where it goes with LA Knight's United States Championship reign. I'd be interested to see what you guys thought and where do you think this direction is going to go for them. Okie doke. Wow. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. In a match that was quite good, in a match that was able to really tell a good story. Always, you're going to have that added drama when you've got a special guest referee, which is something that I don't know why WWE don't use more. Why do they not use special guest referees more? It adds so much more tension. It makes them able to tell an even better story because you've now got that undertone of, well, this guy's not a normal referee. He could throw caution to the wind. He could get involved. He could not count. There is so many things you can do with special guest referees. I don't know why they don't do it more. But it was a hell of a build-up. Great stories being told. CM Punk looked pretty good in the ring, to be honest. Considering how bad he has looked, considering how old and slow and out of shape he has looked, particularly in a lot of his AEW run, and I would say in his WWE run, but he hasn't had a run. He was in the Royal Rumble, then got injured, and he's back now. And he's looked good in the SummerSlam match. He looked like he was in good shape, but I think this is probably where we are in terms of CM Punk's career, where he's just going to have long layoffs and he needs a lot of time to get in shape because he's not on the juice like the other wrestlers. So he's going to have to do it naturally, which is a slow and long process to actually get in shape naturally. If you want to take steroids, okay, he could fight, every couple of weeks. He could wrestle often, every week, but he's not. And you can see, because he looks like an in-shape guy, but he looks like a guy in his 40s. A guy that's in good shape in his 40s, but nonetheless, a guy in his 40s. Very early on, it wasn't like these guys were trying to have a technical contest, which is good because Punk was never really that great in ring, and McIntyre's more of a brawler as well. In terms of technique, I'm talking about. CM Punk was never that great in the ring. I think internet fans and indie fans kind of tried to give him more credit than he was, just because he was so outspoken on the ring, on the mic rather. He wasn't some savant in the ring. Never was, never has been. He's been able to put on some great matches, but Punk really was a mic guy. I think because he's been gone for so long, we forget that. But yeah, these guys threw caution to the wind and just, were throwing haymakers at each other. McIntyre tried to use a chair, but Rollins didn't let him. We had, a back and forth between Punk and Rollins. And then Punk got a bit angry. And then CM Punk hit hit Rollins with a go to sleep. Then McIntyre hit Punk with a low blow, hit him with the Claymore. Like I said, hit him with the Claymore and won the match. And McIntyre beat CM Punk. Now, would be very interesting where this storyline goes with next, because you had that added, layer with Seth Rollins. Maybe Punk versus Rollins is next, maybe for Survivor Series, which would be very interesting as well. Maybe Drew McIntyre will go onto the world title, hopefully. Would be interesting to see, but be interested to know what you guys thought of this match. I think this is probably the best match so far on the card. Probably the best match so far on the card. But yeah, I'd be interested to know what you guys thought of CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. Yeah, and then we had the World Heavyweight Championship match, Damian Priest versus Gunther. In a match that, interested me, I thought was a pretty good match. It was a match that I kind of felt could have been 50-50, because you had Damian Priest, who just won the world title, and like I said, WWE lacks that unpredictability. So Damian Priest winning the world title, I'm like, okay, he's just won the world title, he's going to hold it for another couple months. But no, they didn't go that route this time, and I don't think they really could have, because Gunther was a guy with such momentum and is such a well-rounded WWE superstar in terms of the in-ring, in terms of being able to cut good promos at times as well, when he's got something to say and when he's got a message that he really wants to get across, you can tell. And he done that in the lead up with this Damian Priest match, where he's calling him street trash and all that, and I love that. That was great stuff, and it really kind of felt like personal because Damian Priest was Gunther was talking about Damian Priest's, family and all that stuff, but it was good. It was a good match nonetheless. Priest used his kickboxing skills and even busted Gunther open with a chop. You don't see, if I was going to tell you, Damian Priest and Gunther were going to have a match and Gunther's chest would be bleeding, not many guys would believe me. But then we had Finn Balor come down to cheer on his Judgment Day teammate, seeing Gunther kick him in the face, helped Priest rally, and Priest hit his finisher, but Gunther was too near the rope, and then Finn Balor, put Gunther's leg on the rope, and Priest had no idea until he saw the replay on the monitor. Then Gunther applied a sleeper, and Balor watched as Priest fought back. He was too distracted by the Irishman and passed out to the King of the Ring, Gunther. And Gunther won the World Championship. Like I said again, it was a really good match. And where you had Finn Balor turn on Damian Priest, that's going to be a huge match when that happens next. So much is going to go into that. But that turn there basically solidifies the end of the Judgment Day, where you've had Dom turn on Rhea, Finn turn on Priest. There's nothing left at this point. So, like I said earlier, be super interested to know what happens next with Judgment Day. Overall, started in 2022, ends in 2024. It's been a very, very, very good stable, a very successful stable. Not many stables in wrestling are this successful. So let's see. This was a very hard-hitting match. A lot of strikes. Both guys were bruised and battered by the end. But a match that I really enjoyed. And really excited to see what they do with Gunther for his World Heavyweight Championship reign. Because he's a man that can offer a lot in the ring and a lot on the mic. So I'd be interested to see who he faces next. And then we have the main event, where we saw Cody Rhodes face Solo Sikoa for the undisputed WWE Championship. In a match that was okay, I'd say was pretty good. Was a relatively simple match. Let me let me change that. What started off as a relatively simple match, um, it was just the two exchanging strikes, simple exchange. It wasn't until Cody Rhodes hit a suicide dive that business started to pick up. They tried to sell each move individually, but that really slowed down the pace of the match, which maybe that's just what they felt they needed to do. I think Solo's still, quite new to this. He's not been wrestling for years. He's not as seasoned as other guys on this card. He's not as seasoned as other guys that would typically be in this role. But everything looked pretty good in terms of the match. Then we had, everything go crazy when the bloodline interfere, beat down Cody. Then we had Randy Orton and Kevin Owens come back to even up the odds. They chased away the Tongans. Then out of nowhere, Jacob Fatu came in and sort of saved Solo, to be honest. Then Jacob puts Cody Rhodes through a table, and it looks like it might be all over for Cody. And then the massive return of the one, the only Roman Reigns comes back, and it was a hell of a return. He then came back and took out Solo Sikoa with a huge Superman punch and an even bigger spear. So it looks like that's what Roman Reigns is back for. He's back for Solo Sikoa. He had a shirt that said OTC on it, Original Tribal Chief. That's an amazing thing. Then Rhodes and Reigns, they shared that look. That's going to be used in video packages for sure. They shared that look, and Cody finished it off, and he beat Solo Sikoa, and he retained his WWE Undisputed Championship. Now, that was a pretty good match, but it was more so a good match because of Roman Reigns' return. The match itself wasn't anything crazy. Now, Roman Reigns coming back, I really did like. For me, maybe I'm just splitting hairs here, but the perfect time would have been for Roman Reigns to return was when, and I get why they don't do it, because they want everything to be on the biggest stage as possible. I get that, of course. But when Paul Heyman said to Solo, "You are not my tribal chief," and they share that moment, and Paul Heyman is looking at Solo Sikoa, and Solo's about to hit him, that's when you bring back Roman Reigns. And that SmackDown arena would have got unglued if that return happened. It didn't. I know, I get why it didn't happen. But yeah, overall it was a really, really strong event. I liked it. There was, in terms of WWE Premium Live events, went pretty well. I think WWE have had some great events recently. They've had some great events. But you've got the Bloodline and the Judgment Day, both WWE's two major factions. They're in turmoil at the moment. So we're going to see a lot of people looking for revenge, a lot of people trying to get back on top, a lot of people trying to get their get back. So it does make WWE television going to be very interesting for this week and the coming weeks. So, but I'd be so interested to know what you guys thought of SummerSlam, what you thought of each match. If it's an event you're going to rewatch, or what, I'd be super interested. So let me know. But let's look at what else we've got going on. Let's see what else we've got going on for, in sports. Let's look at the NBA news, what we got here. What have we got here? Let's see what we've got going on. We haven't really got too much in terms of NBA news. Okay. Okay, well, it looks like finds landing spot spending last season on the Heat. Okay, so Cole Swider's agreed a 1 year deal with the Indiana Pacers. Okay, very interesting. Cole Swider, I mean, hopefully one day will be a friend of the channel, but a player that I really liked. Um, Very interesting. Cole Swider to the Indiana Pacers. Very interesting. You know, ultimately, when you've got a player like Cole Swider, he can almost fit on any team because he's a 3 point sniper. We know he's not great defensively. In fact, he's bad defensively. You know, he's not quick enough to guard guards, and he's not strong enough to guard forwards. So he's really caught in a no man's land of defense. But if you can create plays for him to get him open, get him in the corners, get him decent looks, he'll knock down threes. You know, even for the Heat in the Summer League, he shot 49% from three, which is obviously doing that in the Summer League is a lot easier than doing it in the NBA. You know, doing that in the NBA, that's an insane efficiency. Doing it in the Summer League, of course, is very impressive, but it's not insane. But Cole Swider in the Indiana Pacers, very interesting move. 1 year non-guaranteed deal, so after a year he'll probably be gone from the Indiana Pacers, unless he impresses. I could see him impress because you get a guy like him, you put him on the floor, garbage time, run a few plays, he knocks down 2 threes, that's 6 points. And if you can get a guy who's on a cheap deal, a 1 year non-guaranteed deal, so he's going to be on the minimum, you're going to get him for pennies. If you can get a guy who can bring you 6 points per game, 7 points per game on a minimum, there's a lot of teams that would take that. So it'd be very interesting to see how Cole Swider does next season. I hope to see him get more game time because even though he's not super, super young, would love to see him, still develop. Sorry about that. Would love to see him, still develop and, like I said, develop that defensive side of the game because he needs to. If you're going to do anything in the NBA, you can't just be a 3 point sniper and be, a non-threat on defense. You need to do realistically, you need to do 2 out of the 3 elements of the game good. There's playmaking, there's scoring, there's defending. You just being a good playmaker isn't enough, typically, because you've got guys in the G League averaging over 10 assists. But what else do they bring to the game? Can they score the ball? Can they defend? No. You just playmake. Okay, so you're just in the G League then. Okay, you get a guy like Cole Swider who can just shoot. It's not enough to keep you in the NBA and have real staying power. You're just a shooter. Okay, go to the Summer League, average 50% from three. But can you get back on defense? And can you create your own looks or create looks for others? Can he do that? He can't really do that at the moment. Cole Swider, he can't really do that at the moment. So that's why he's getting these 1 year non-guaranteed deals, because he's only proficient in one of the 3 areas of the game. Now, you become a 3 point sniper, and even if you're just acceptable on defense, there's teams that will offer you deals. You don't even need to be a lockdown defender, but as long as you're not a minus on defense, as long as you're not a complete defensive liability, if you're a guy that you can, because he's not a particularly small guy. I want to say he's 6'6", 6'6", 6'7" maybe. So you're not a small guy. If you can either get quick enough to guard 1 through 3s, or get strong enough to guard 4 through 4 and 5s, then you've got something there. Then you've got the shooting and the defense. Or if you work on your handle and be able to carry the ball a bit more, then you can start to create your own looks, get that playmaking, or increase that basketball knowledge and then create looks for others. Then you've got that playmaking too. You've got that shooting and the playmaking. Then because you can run an offense, teams won't be as on you for that defense. Of course, teams will always be on you for defense because that's when you're a player that hasn't been established in the league. I remember with DeJounte Murray when he made the all-defensive team, defense is what gets you on the court for a lot of these players. Defense is what gets you on the court. You need to be a hound on defense. Cultuire's not that at the moment, but I'm happy that NBA teams are still giving him a chance because I want to see him develop. This is a player that I've known, since he went undrafted and joined the South Bay Lakers. This player I was super excited to get because, I'm hearing about this guy, like the South Bay Lakers just signed cultuire. He was one of the best catch and shoots in college this season before he joined. But, let's see what happens with cultuire. A player that we've talked about before on the channel and had some good things to say about him and was interested to see where he'd land up. I'd assumed he'd just go back to the Heat after the two-way deal, but he's at the Pacers now, and that's potentially a good move if they give him the game time, if they let him develop, and on his side as well, if he develops as well, because it's the NBA, it's cutthroat. They're not just going to give you game time. You need to prove yourself that when you're on the floor, you take your shots and you make them. But let's see what else they got for cultuire. Yeah. What's this? Julius Randle is eligible for an extension today. I broke down. Okay. Julius Randle. Now, a player like Julius Randle, let's have a look at Julius Randle because a player with a very interesting career he's had. Because I think of Julius Randle and I really don't know if he's good or not. If I'm being honest, I really don't know if this kid's good or not because he has good seasons and he has bad seasons. I think he was at the Lakers before. He's had a very interesting career. Let's get his stats up. Okay. Okay. Per game. Okay. So yeah, joined the NBA, joined the Lakers, was at the Lakers for 4 years. Then was at the Pelicans. I didn't know he played for the Pelicans. Was at the Pelicans for a season, or is at the Pelicans for a season, and then joined New York. Now, when he joined New York, he's a good scorer. The thing is, he's a decent little scorer when he wants to be. But what I think really kills him is that he can't shoot the three. Can he though? I'm looking at 2020. He was in his, I remember that season. Yeah, in his bag, one most improved player. That was really a great season for him. He averaged a double. 24 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. That's a great season for a player like Julius Randle. Wins most improved player, 8th in MVP ranking. Very interesting. And is an all-star that season also. Very interesting. Yeah, but that was a good season for Julius Randle and was his career high in terms of minutes played as well, per game. But then we go down to, the season after where he's shooting 30% from three. Still, defensively quite solid from what he looks like. Not as good as the last season when he was most improved player, of course not. He took a bit of a dip. But, shooting in the NBA, when you're a player that's going to be playing 35 minutes per game, you're being looked to by the New York Knicks on offense. You're being consistently looked to. You can't be averaging anything less than 35% per season, to be honest. And he's never done that apart from one season, really. And for a lot of his career, apart from his first season, where he didn't really play, apart from his first season, he's been a pretty major player in terms of minutes played, and he's never really got above that, apart from the one season when he won Most Improved, you need to be averaging the 36, 37, ideally 38% from three per game, 38% from three, for this season. If you're going to be, anything, if you're going to be a significant player at this level, and you're going to be looked to on offense, defensively he's fine because we know Julius Randle, he's a physical presence. He's going to be grabbing them rebounds. How big is he? He's 6'8", 250. He's a big dude. He's a big dude and he can get those rebounds. As we see, even for his career, he's averaged 24 points, 9 rebounds. That's pretty good. More than pretty good. That's very good. He was a 7th overall pick. That's a very good career he's had. Oh, no, that's not his career. That's last season. For his career, he's averaged, still 19 points, 9 rebounds. Even that's pretty good. That's, again, more than pretty good. That's a career most players would die for. But I think Julius Randle, he's eligible for the extension. I assume the Knicks will want to extend him. But, bro, you've got to do something about that 3-point shooting, because last season he shot 31% from 3. This, for me, if I'm the GM, I'm looking at them, I'm like, we're giving this guy 35 minutes per game and he can't knock down the 3. At even an average rate, he's a below average 3-point shooter. He's a below average 3-point shooter. And we look at his, career, I don't think they've got, for his career he's 33% from 3. That's not good enough. I know, to be fair, he started his career in 2014, but 2014 was still the 3-point shooting era. It's not like he's from 2006, 2007, where even in college you weren't really shooting threes like that. He came to the league 2014, so they're shooting threes. So there's no excuse for me, if you're asking me. But let's see what Julius Randle will get in the extension. Do you think he'll stay at New York? Do you think they'll offer him? They won't offer him the max. I don't think they've got the money to offer him the max. But let's see what the Knicks would offer him. What would you offer him? I'm thinking, he's a guy who can't really knock down threes, but defensively probably quite a good presence, and even without the threes, is still averaging nearly 20. That's what we're saying. He's still averaging over 20 points a game. So I'm thinking maybe a 4-year 135, 140 maybe. 4 years 140 mil is what I'm thinking. But I don't know what New York's salary cap is looking like. I don't know if that's doable for them. I've got no idea. But I'd be very interested to find out what the New York Knicks do with Julius Randle, because he's an interesting commodity as a player. Like I say, a player who can get a bucket, does his job on defense, but isn't amazing in terms of being a sniper. And 3-point is where the league's, we would say it's where the league's heading. The league's headed there. It's done. You need to be able to shoot threes. So let's see what happens. What else we got here? What have we got here? Okay, let's see what we got here from Bleacher Report. A 3-team trade idea to help the Los Angeles Lakers move D'Angelo Russell. Well, let's start this off. I don't know what D'Angelo Russell's contract situation is the LA Lakers. Let's get this. This week, that came courtesy of the LA Lakers, who've reportedly been shopping D'Lo around since he opted into the final year of his contract. Okay, so he's got 1 year left. Okay, so I get trying to trade him then. That makes sense. The thing is, he's a good on the ball playmaker, and there aren't many playmakers that can play. There aren't many point guards that can play with LeBron James. And D'Lo, regular season D'Lo is not a problem. It's just in the play. Oh, boy, it says it here. The 28-year-old playmaker's defense has become a real problem for LA in each of the last two postseasons. Yeah, because when it gets cracking in the postseason, when you've got players playing at their absolute most, guys are putting in 110%. You need someone that can lock in on defense, and D'Lo's not really that guy. But he's always been good. For me, he's always been a good option for the Lakers to look to. You know, in terms of 3-point shooting, you know, LeBron's a good 3-point shooter, but nothing special. Anthony Davis can't shoot the three at all. I mean, his 3-point shooting is at a similar clip to Julius Randle, to give you an idea. Not a great 3-point shooter at all. And then you've got Reeves, who can sometimes knock it down. I don't know what his numbers were like in the postseason this past season. But then after that, you got D'Lo. D'Lo's the best 3-point shooter we've probably got. The best out-and-out 3-point shooter we've got is probably D'Lo. Now that I'm thinking off the top of my head. So, I'm not super happy that they're trying to get rid of him. But, okay, let's look at this trade idea. So, the Lakers received Jeremy Grant and Cole Anthony. Okay. And the Lakers give up D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, Vanderbilt, Jalen Hood-Schifino, a top 3 protected 2029 first round pick, and a 2030 second round pick. Okay, so the Blazers get Vincent, Vanderbilt, Jet Howard, and some picks. They lose Jeremy Grant. Magic receive D'Lo, Hood-Schifino. It's very interesting because adding in a guy like Vanderbilt's a player that I quite like at the Lakers, so I wouldn't really want to give him up. The rest of them I'm fine with in terms of D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, and Hood-Schifino. I'm fine with giving those guys up because Hood-Schifino's nothing special for me. And then, yeah, Hood-Schifino's nothing special. Vanderbilt I like. Gabe Vincent, nothing. Is basically like our 13th or 14th man at this point, I think. A player who done well for the Heat, but the Heat knew how to use him. You know, he was using a very specific role at the Heat where he was just, you know, get him on the court and he can shoot some threes. That doesn't make you a great player. That means you can shoot threes. And Miami Heat are great at getting these role players and having NBA GMs, NBA fan bases thinking they're better than they are. No, they just fit a system that they are meant to fit. So, Gabe Vincent wasn't brought in to be a hound on defense, wasn't brought in to be a ball handler, a playmaker. Or no, he was. They thought he could do all that, but he couldn't. And he didn't really show he could do that in the Miami Heat, but Miami Heat have that Heat culture where we can hide your weaknesses. You know, we can hide your weaknesses and make you look good, and then we know your limitations because we know you. So if you ask for something crazy, we're not going to give it to you. But another team who doesn't know you will give you that. And that's what the Lakers did. Not that we even gave him that big of a contract, but we probably shouldn't have even signed him in the first place. But he was available. So let's see. But D'Lo would end up going to the Magic in this trade. I'm not sure. Look, I guess a player like D'Lo, you're never going to not want, in my opinion. Like I said, he's a player who's point guard. He can dribble. He'll bring the ball up the court. Offensively, he's pretty good. But ultimately, you need to know what you're getting with him. You know you're getting a player on the ball, offensively, is going to be pretty good for you as far as point guards go. He's going to be able to shoot threes, play make. He's going to be able to do what you need defensively from a point guard in the 2024 NBA. You know, come the postseason, when guys start to lock in on offense and go crazy at him, when you got guys that be doing their crazy handle moves, their crazy bag in the playoffs, you know D'Lo can't really defend that. So you're going to sign him knowing this. So when you're in this situation, you have no excuse, in my opinion. In my opinion, you have no excuse to be, like, when you're in this situation, don't be like, oh, we love D'Lo, but he can't defend. You know that. Going in, it's kind of been established. We know D'Lo's defensively not great, so what do? You build the squad. You balance the squad. You have guys that equally are great defensively but don't need the ball in their hand. And the Magic kind of do have a squad like that. Love to see D'Lo play with Paolo Banchero. I think they could do some really interesting pick and roll action there. And it also means, similar to the Lakers, D'Angelo doesn't have to have the ball in his hand all the time. Because he's not an elite point guard where he's going to be super ball dominant and super efficient with it. He's a good point guard, but he's not super elite. He's not the top echelon of point guards like a Damian Lillard or a Steph Curry, where they can basically on the ball do it all. D'Lo's very good, but he's still got those limitations. Have the ball in Paolo Banchero's hands at times. He can do it. He can rock out. Again, another big physical presence for D'Lo to play with, like LeBron. You can do some interesting plays with that. I don't mind the Orlando Magic as a potential trade destination for D'Angelo Russell. I'm not a big fan of how we get there because, give up more picks, which the Lakers don't need to do, and giving up Vanderbilt, who I think is a good player. But Jeremy Grant, good option, good four-man. But I think Lakers really need a centre because if you want to play AD at the 4, you play AD at the 4, you need a 5. But if you can convince AD to play the 5, then you've got a good four-man in Jeremy Grant. But I think that's going to be it from me, guys. We've been going for a while. 46 minutes. We've been going for a while. But it's been a blast, as usual. It's been a pleasure. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you want me to do more of these. If there's certain things you want me to talk about. It's been great, guys. Cheers. I'm out. Peace.